For decades, the Montreal Canadiens have been one of hockey's most storied franchises. 24 Stanley Cups, legends carved into the sport's history, and an identity built on winning. But for most of the last 30 years, that legacy has felt more like a ghost story than a present reality. The Habs were defined by false starts, endless rebuilds, and a fan base that kept asking the same question: when is the next great team coming? Now, quietly, almost without notice, the answer may already be forming, and the hockey world is starting to realize it. There wasn't one loud press conference or dramatic all-in trade that signaled Montreal's rebirth. Instead, it's been a slow, calculated build, piece by piece, prospect by prospect, gamble by gamble, until suddenly you look at their roster and realize this isn't a rebuilding team anymore. This is a group with a young core, elite talent at every position, and a system stacked with reinforcements. But here's the kicker: the Canadiens didn't just get lucky, they made moves that other franchises weren't bold enough to make. They drafted players that other teams overlooked because of size. They pulled off trades that signaled confidence and direction. They developed a culture that suddenly makes Montreal not just a hockey hotbed for fans, but once again, a place where players actually want to play. So today we're going to dig deep into exactly why the Habs could be the NHL's next powerhouse. And I'll warn you now, it's not just a theory. The evidence is stacked, the timelines are aligning, and if things go right, this could be the beginning of the next great Montreal dynasty. But before we crown them, let's start with the move that changed everything and sent shockwaves across the league. On the surface, it was just another hockey trade. A good young defenseman, Noah Dobson, moved from the New York Islanders to the Montreal Canadiens. Plenty of deals happen every offseason, and most of them are forgotten after a few weeks. But this one was different, because Dobson didn't just get traded. He chose Montreal. At just 25 years old, standing 6'4" with a proven 70-point season under his belt, Dobson was the type of cornerstone defenseman teams almost never let go of. And yet, when negotiations with the Islanders stalled, Canadiens GM Kent Hughes pounced. He sent a package of picks, the 16th, the 17th, plus prospect Emil Heineman, and landed his man. But here's the shocking part: Dobson took less money to sign long-term in Montreal. Think about that. For years, Montreal had a reputation as a team that stars wanted to avoid. The pressure was too much, the taxes were too high, the media was relentless. But Dobson flipped that script. He didn't just accept a deal in Montreal, he actively wanted it, and that signals something much bigger than one roster addition. It signals that, once again, players see Montreal as a destination. On the ice, Dobson was exactly what Montreal needed: a right-shot anchor capable of controlling breakouts, quarterbacking the power play, and defending odd-man rushes. For years, the Canadiens lacked balance on their blue line. Now, they had a defenseman who could be the perfect safety net for their young phenom, Lane Hutson. Dobson is the kind of player that makes everything easier. Suddenly, Cole Caulfield can fly the zone knowing someone can hit him with a 120-foot breakout pass. Suddenly, the power play can run through multiple options instead of forcing pucks to the same side. Dobson is a multiplier, and Montreal bought more than just skill. They bought credibility. But here's the thing: one defenseman, no matter how good, doesn't create a powerhouse. What happens when you pair him with a rookie sensation who just lit the league on fire? That's when things get scary. If you were to write a hockey script, you couldn't do better than Lane Hutson's rookie season. The skeptics said he was too small. At 5'10", maybe he'd make a fun power play guy, but could he really handle the NHL grind? Could he survive forecheckers, handle defensive pressure, and log big minutes? Well, not only did he survive, he dominated. Hutson's debut wasn't just good, it was historic. He tied Larry Murphy's rookie assist record for defensemen, became one of the fastest skaters in the league, and walked away with the Calder Trophy in a landslide. His edge work was mesmerizing, his deception made veteran players look foolish, and his ability to jumpstart offense made Montreal one of the most dangerous transition teams in hockey. And then came the partnership, Hutson and Dobson. If Hutson was lightning, unpredictable, dazzling, pure offense, then Dobson was thunder, steady, punishing, reliable. Together, they formed one of the most balanced young defensive pairings in the league. Coaches could use them in any situation. Fans saw highlight reels every night, and analytics models started spitting out wild numbers. Projections of a 57% expected goal share, numbers reserved for pairings like Hughes-Hronek or McCarr-Toews. For Montreal, Hutson was more than a Calder winner. He was proof that their scouting and development had worked, proof that betting on skill, even in undersized players, could pay off. But the Canadiens weren't done shocking the hockey world, because just as Hutson was wrapping up his rookie year, another star was about to arrive. one with the potential to completely redefine Montreal's forward group. When Ivan Demidov fell to Montreal at 5th overall in the draft, it felt like destiny. Scouts had him ranked as high as 2nd, and some even argued he had the most pure offensive talent in the entire class. But teams got scared. A long KHL contract, uncertainty about his transition, the usual hesitation around Russian prospects. Kent Hughes didn't blink. He took him, and within months, that gamble paid off. Demidov's KHL numbers were outrageous, nearly 50 points in a U20 season, the highest ever recorded. When he finally made his way to North America, Canadiens fans didn't know what to expect. Would he struggle to adapt? Would he need time in the AHL? Instead, he stepped into the lineup and within 3 games, pulled off a no-look backhand pass that lit up social media. His creativity, vision, and confidence were obvious. He didn't just belong, he looked like a future star. Suddenly, Montreal had another Calder Trophy favorite. Hudson had just won it. Demidov could easily win it next. Back-to-back Rookie of the Year winners, something the league hasn't seen in over 50 years. And the fit was perfect. With Nick Suzuki's two-way intelligence, Caulfield's one-timer, and Slavkovsky's physical dominance, Demidov's east-west game opened new lanes and unlocked even more offense. Coaches could put him on the top line or second line and instantly have a unit that terrified defenses. Demidov wasn't just another talented winger, he was a supercharger, and with him, the Canadiens' offense suddenly looked like it could compete with anyone in the league. But if you think Montreal's future stops with its stars, you're underestimating the machine they've built, because what makes this team truly terrifying isn't just its current talent, it's the endless conveyor belt of players waiting in the wings. For most rebuilding teams, the story goes like this: draft a few top players, hope they hit, and then scramble to fill holes once you start winning. Montreal, they're playing a different game. The Canadiens don't just have a strong roster, they have an AHL team loaded with NHL-ready players. Joshua Roy, Owen Beck, Oliver Kapanen, these aren't just nice prospects. They're players already terrorizing veteran-heavy playoff series in Laval. Roy's shot release is NHL-ready. Beck is one of the best young face-off guys in hockey. Kapanen just broke a rookie playoff scoring record. And then there's the draft. Even after trading picks for Dobson, Montreal still walked away from the 2025 draft with a steal. Russian winger Alexander Zhuravsky at number 34, a player some had mocked in the first round. Add Hayden Papanekis, Bryce Pickford, and goalie Radko Kurnoyer, and you see the pattern. Hughes keeps finding value, whether it's a big-bodied center, a sandpaper winger, or a future crease protector. Montreal's strategy is simple but deadly. Keep the pipeline full. If a current player struggles, they have a replacement. If a star gets too expensive, they can reload. And if they need to swing a trade for a missing piece, they've got the assets to make it happen. That kind of depth doesn't just build a good team, it builds a sustainable contender. But even with all the talent in the world, one question remains: will they know how to win? For that, you need culture. And Montreal may finally have solved that puzzle too. For years, playing in Montreal was seen as a burden. The pressure was suffocating, the media unrelenting, and the team often a mess. That's changed, and it starts behind the bench. Martin St. Louis isn't your typical coach. He's not the old school screamer. He's not the systems-obsessed tactician. He's something in between. A motivator, a teacher, and most importantly, someone players actually listen to. Ask Nick Suzuki, who blossomed from a steady 60-point player into an 85-point captain under St. Louis' guidance. Ask Cole Caulfield, who finally broke the 30-goal barrier and looked more confident than ever. Or look at Lane Hudson, whose rookie year flourished because his coach gave him freedom instead of fear. Players describe St. Louis as part TED Talk, part locker room banter. He communicates, he inspires, and he adapts. And for young stars trying to find their footing, that's invaluable. It's not just coaching. Montreal has invested in facilities, sports science, and player development. The message is clear. This is a modern organization built for growth. The result? Agents are now calling Hughes, asking if their clients can be considered for Montreal. And rumors are swirling. But the Canadiens are reportedly aggressive suitors for players like Jordan Kyrou before his no-trade clause kicks in. Think about that. Montreal, once avoided, is now attractive, but culture doesn't just set the vibe, it sets the timeline, and Montreal's timeline is lining up perfectly. Timing is everything in the NHL. You can have talent, depth, and culture, but if your salary cap is a mess or your stars are aging, it doesn't matter. Montreal's timing is flawless. Look at their core: Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Hudson, Dobson, Demidov. Every single one of them is 25 or younger. That's unheard of. Look at their contracts. Dobson locked up long-term, Suzuki signed, Caulfield committed, Hudson and Demidov still on entry-level deals. And then look at the cap sheet. Montreal projects to have $13 million in space next summer. Even after extending Dobson, that's enough room to chase a star, add a big free agent, or make a splash trade without gutting the roster. This is the exact formula that worked for Colorado before their cup run. Stockpile stars on cheap deals, surround them with talent, and strike before the bills come due. For Montreal, that strike window is opening right now, but how soon can they actually flip the switch from on the rise to true contender? The 2025-26 season is the pivot point. Dobson's Bell Center debut, Hudson's sophomore surge, Demidov's first full year, a returning core that played over 88% of last year's 5-on-5 minutes. All signs point to progress. The goal? 100 points and a playoff berth that isn't in doubt. And if they get in, the Canadiens are no longer the easy matchup they once were. Against Toronto, they can match young star power. Against Florida, they can counter with speed and depth. Against Boston, they can grind. The biggest question mark, as always, is goaltending. But even there, Montreal has options. Depth in the system, cap space to chase a veteran, and a defense strong enough to protect whoever stands in the crease. By 2026 to 2027, the expectation isn't just playoffs, it's contention, and rivals know it. Because what's scarier than a talented team? A talented team that keeps reloading year after year. The Canadiens have spent the last 4 years rebuilding patiently, drafting smartly, and refusing to panic. Now, the results are clear. Noah Dobson's decision to choose Montreal changed the perception of the franchise. Lane Hudson's Calder season proved their development model works. Ivan Demidov's arrival added superstar potential to an already loaded core. And behind them, an endless prospect pipeline guarantees reinforcements for years to come. Add in a modern culture, a brilliant coach, and a perfectly aligned salary cap window, and you don't just have a good young team, you have a potential powerhouse. For rivals, it's terrifying. For fans, it's thrilling. For the league, it's a reminder that the Canadiens, once thought to be stuck in endless rebuilds, are knocking on the door of greatness again. And here's the scary part. They're arriving sooner than anyone expected. So buckle up, because the roar of the Bell Center might just be the soundtrack of the NHL's next dynasty.